Hi, this is Albert, and today I'm going to discuss a game that I played against an opponent 2 or 3 days ago. And during this game, I managed to sort of did some sacrifices, which started with a knight sacrifice, and at the end, I wanted to manage to do a rook sacrifice, but the opponent has resigned before I did that.
1, 2, 3.
So let's just have a look here. I sort of forget what's the name of the opponent. Okay, it's this one. siqmcrip is my opponent. And in this game I was black and the opponent was white. And at the end of the day the opponent actually left the game. Let's just have a look here. I was black and siqmcrip was white. And during this game, I managed to sacrifice a lot of pieces and material, I suppose, just to get an advantage to attack the king of my opponent. And in this game, I did a pattern of defense, which started with e4, e5, and then knight f3, and I replied with knight f6. And the opponent didn't really take the pawn at e5 here, but it continued with d3, which is protecting the pawn at e4 in case there is any counterattack. So what I did is I moved my knight to c6 with the idea of probably protecting my pawn as well at e5, and then bishop goes to g5. It's trying to pin my knight at f6, and I just did a kick for the bishop, which is h6, and the bishop was actually kicked one square back. And here I'm doing the counterattack, which is bishop goes to b4 check. This is like an intermediary move because of course this move is easily refuted, but the question is how the opponent is going to block this move, or actually will it actually move its king from this position. There are so many variations, but then the opponent chooses to move its knights at b to d2. Now when I was actually looking at this reply, I was actually thinking, hey, this opponent is actually pretty it's actually moving the knight there. So in case I take it with my bishop, it can take back and it will not destroy its position. So there is another alternative from this move, and the alternative is actually moving the knight to c3, and then if I take, probably the pawn at b will have to take it and there will be a problem in the position. So I think psychologically, if I see this, I'm just going to say this opponent doesn't want its structure to be destroyed. Probably it doesn't also want to move the pawn at c. So yeah, as you can see, the other alternative is actually moving the pawn from c2 to c3. So I don't really know, but I guess I'm doing a blunder move here, which is knight goes to d4, and I was actually expecting the opponent to move its pawn at c2 to c3, and then that's not actually a fork. If the opponent moves the pawn from c2 to c3, I can just easily take the knight f3, and then it's going to be a check. And after the check, I can move my bishop straight away from the fork, so it's not really a fork. And from here, actually the best move for the opponent is the knight at f3 take e5. If it did that, it's going to be advantage by 1 pawn. But then because I pressurize this person, and probably the idea of this person moving the knight there, so from knight at b goes to d2 as a defense. It's probably so when I take it using my bishop, probably it wants the knight at f3 to take it back, so knight replaced by knight. I'm not sure basically, but I just do this blunder move to test the opponent, and then the opponent didn't take e e5. Instead of, it took my knight and d4. I think it's just it's going to weaken the opponent positionally, so I take it back using the pawn. So e takes d4, and then all of a sudden there is a centralized pawn that I have. And during this game, as you can see later on, the fight will be mostly in the center of the board. So this is going to be a very classical game, according to the theory, according to the book. And with some luck, I also win this game as well, because I just follow all the theories in the book, and then the opponent is actually, even though the opponent is winning by some pieces, maybe by a knight, it actually lost because positionally and strategically it cannot handle the pressure that I take using my using by just following some theories here. So from this, the opponent moved the bishop, the white square bishop, to e2, and probably this means that the king wants to castle kingside. So what do? I prepare my bishop to fianchetto later on, but before that, I try to attack the king and the bishop first. So the move is g5, and this g5 move actually has two purposes. The first purpose is actually to kick the bishop back, so it provides another kick to white's black square bishop, as well as advancing the pawn to attack the white's king side. So it has two purposes. And if you have if you can spot some moves that has two or three purposes, that actually is good, is something like a good move. You can sort of sense that it's a good move because it has two or three purposes to your attack or to your defense. Basically, it has some good moves are also defending and also attacking at the same time. That is also a good move.
Baby.
Okay, so so in a chess game you have to move one of the piece, and you take it in turns. So you really need to sort of think of a good move by choosing from other alternative moves. So yeah, probably that's how I actually think when I play chess. So the opponent, of course, it has to move its bishop. It move its bishop to g3, which is the only move it has. So it is an escaping move, and I don't think it's actually where it really wants to stay. But yeah, what I did is actually now try to fianchetto the bishop, my white square bishop, which is the black white square bishop, to b7 later on by moving b6 first. I believe a fianchettoed bishop, according to the hypermodern theory of the game of chess, is a stronger bishop than other bishops, because it is controlling the main diagonal as well as it is protected by the other pawns. So as you can see here, as predicted, the white king is actually castling kingside, and from here b7, bishop goes to b7 is relevant, and the aim of the game is actually probably to sort of knock off any obstacles in the middle, which is the pawn at e4, for example, trying to sort of make it go forward or so. So there will be a direct attack to the king side of white. So here white is actually move a3, and it's probably going to try to do revenge on the kicking back of the bishop. And what I did here, I didn't really move it back straightforwardly. I move it to c5 first. Are you okay? Sorry. My kid is a bit sick since yesterday, and we have been fighting so much to try to help her to regain her health back by giving her food, and probably is for her recovery as well. So her antibody actually is used to sort of heal herself, and it's pretty harsh, but then I believe it's better than antibiotic. So moving on, b4. b4 is actually a move to kick me back further. Then I move my bishop to e7. I didn't move my bishop to d6 because there will be an exchange of pieces, and there will be a damage of my pawn structure later on, and I don't want that to happen. Now, as I can see here, my pawn at d4 is actually prone to attack because just by moving its knight, just by moving white's knight, I can be attacked. The pawn at d4 can be attacked, and my reply would be a pawn to c5. So as you can see here, the knight is actually moving, white's knight moving to b3, and I continue with my plan, which is trying to help supporting my pawn. There could be an exchange here, but it didn't happen. The next move of white is rook goes to c1. Now this is actually I'm not sure what sort of move is this, but this would be an interesting move because probably by putting the rook there, white has a plan of moving its pawn from c2 to c3 or to c4. It's basically, it doesn't like, I can sense that it doesn't like my pawn that is at d4 because it's controlling a lot of squares there. But probably, yeah, I can sort of leave it there for a moment, and I will now I'm going to continue the attack of using most of my fianchetto bishop. So as you can see here, there are a lot of a lot of protectors of white king side. So what I do is actually I want to sort of control the center of the board, as well as try to exchange the black square bishop, because the black square bishop is actually annoying, and probably bring my queen to the game as well. So what I do is actually I'm advancing my pawn at the at in front of my queen, so it's d5, which is I'm trying to annoy the center of white board. Sorry, the centerpiece of white pieces. Here it is said from the engine that this is actually a blunder, because probably it's actually blocking my fianchetto bishop, but it's actually not later on because of there are some luck as well probably that I have. And I move my sorry, so the reply of white is actually interesting. It's f3. f3 means it is trying to open up the rook, the f file for the rook attack, and in case I take that, there will be an attack of the f file from white. So from this, I don't think I'm going to take the pawn at e4. So what I did is I was trying to exchange pieces, which is bishop goes to the d6. Now, why do I do this? Because I know that I have and I really need to take the bishop at g3. It is really annoying, and when it's taking when if the bishop at g3 takes the bishop at d6, I can take it back using my queen, so I don't waste my time and momentum. But actually, this is a blunder that I make, because there will be a move such as e5, and there will be that is a fork. But I actually already know that this will be a fork, but I really do not mind if I sacrifice my knight. Why don't I mind? Because I want to sort of direct my attack immediately to white's king side. So here it goes. This is the fork that white makes, which is e5, and instead of moving my knight, I sacrifice it. I move my bishop back to c7, so in case the knight takes, I'm going to take it back. So e takes f6, which is it's taking my gambit, and I take it back using bishop goes to take g3. Now white take it back, which is h takes g3, and then I take the pawn at f6 using my queen. So as you can see here, by taking the bishop there is a damage of white king defense, and I'm going to sort of utilize the h file later on. That's the plan. So I take this material back first using my queen. So queen takes f6, and then queen goes to d2. Here probably the plan is actually to advance the pawn at f for white, and then it's going to sort of attack me. And what I did is here I want to continue my attack, so I do the queenside castle, which is an interesting move, because from this move I can sort of support the pawn at d5. However, if there is an exchange of pieces, I can lose. Here actually it is a blunder, it's a mistake, sorry, because knight can if b takes c5, and then I take it back using b as well, the knight can take it back, and from here, you know, white can sort of win positionally, but it didn't. So I sort of spread out the focus here, and then white is actually focusing on something else, which is the center of the board, and it's planned, but it doesn't really focus on my king. So it goes on with f4, which is the idea of probably opening up an attack, maybe a discovery attack. And I actually do not care about that. I just move my rook at d to e8 just to control the open file at e. And then if there is any exchange of pieces, I'm going to take the bishop. So bishop has to move, and white moved the bishop to g4 check, and I just simply move my king to b8. And from here the engine says that, hey, why don't you just take the pawn at c5? Why don't you do it, white? Because white actually is not focusing there, it just try to do a discovered attack, so which is not a direct attack. So it continued on, which is f took g5, and my queen took g5. So the idea is actually exchanging pieces here. And remember that actually I still have a fianchetto bishop there. It's very strong, as you can see later on. So here white immediately take back, and I took back using my h-pawn. And from this my idea is actually to do battery at h file. So firstly, white did this. White did take f7. Now I'm not afraid of white doing this because uh, this move is actually pretty good because it take a material or so. But then my plan is still going on. So I move my rook to h6. Now the idea is actually I will move the other rook from e to h8, and then I will go to attack the file, which is I will check at h1, and then king will move, and then white rook can be under fire. So I can see that white is pretty static. It just wants to continue what it's planned, and it's not really dynamically try to attack me. It doesn't update with my king's position. It just has its plan from the beginning, and it doesn't change as I sort of it doesn't change through the time as there are some update in the position. From here, white still doesn't take the pawn at c5. It moved its pawn to c4. So there are a lot of possibilities here. I can do a lot of replies here, but because of this move, I can see an opportunity of getting my fianchetto bishop to become very little, very damaging to white. So firstly, the 25th move is actually a fancy move. It is an en passant. So if you are new to chess, um, if there are a pawn passing your pawn, so if there is a pawn that hasn't moved yet, it passes your pawn just like that. You can take it as if you are taking it on the way. So and then white take it back using its rook. Now I can have a way of utilizing my fianchetto bishop by moving my pawn from d5 to d4. Now this is actually a very damaging attack. Why is it damaging? Even the engine asked me to isn't even the engine asked white to actually take the bishop at b7, even though I'm actually attacking the rook using my pawn at d. So it is very interesting, right? Simply because whatever happens with the escaping move of white, the next move will be a fork move using my bishop, which will go to d5. So as you can see here, this is even stupider. So the rook goes to the hole at c4, and I move my bishop to d5. It is a fork of the rook. So from here, b takes c5, which is trying probably to open up, but it doesn't actually make me escape. So sorry. Okay, so there is a fork here, and so white took from b, its pawn at b took c5, and I just took the rook at f7, and from here white just realized probably that it's actually not a good idea to keep the rook there, so it moved its rook to b4, and I just took the knight at b3, and then the rook took back at b3, took b3, and then from here it's actually suggested that I move my rook to e1 to check, but then I just sort of try to
control white movement by moving my rook to e3, attacking the pawn at g3, and also making the rook at b3 to defend the pawn at d3. And from here, white took the pawn at b6 using its pawn at c, and luckily my rook is there, so I can take it back using my rook. So here white has to decide what to do, because probably the best is only exchanging the pieces here. So because if white rook move away, I can easily win material by maybe taking the pawn at d3, or I can easily just take the rook as well if the rook doesn't actually defend itself. So there is an exchange in rook, as you can see, and then white has to defend. Definitely it's losing another material, which is its pawn. So bishop goes to f5. I took g3, and then king tries to move. My rook goes to e3, and then sort of cover everything. Like the king cannot move anywhere. The white king cannot move anywhere, and then white goes to e4, which is I think a mistake, because I can sort of advance my pawn here, and white also advances pawn, but I move my king forward just to bring it to support the attack here, and then white king goes to f1. Here I actually I could take g3, but then I sort of do it later, I suppose. So I bring my king forward to d6, and that is actually the end of the game here, because white actually left. Now I believe this is a good game, because principally I have done a lot of positional and strategic play, while I actually sacrificed my knight, as well as I did a good fianchetto, and also a good tactical move such as fork, and basically it's a lucky game. And then there are a lot of textbook of chess, such as controlling the middle of square of the game, and then also the diagonal. So probably this is a good and classical sort of game that I can learn. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.